Hello, and welcome to Creator Weekly Live for December 31st, 2023. It is literally the last show of the year. Thank you for joining me live. If you're here, I'd love to hear how your holidays have been and whether you have any New Year's resolutions. This week, I don't have any specific product updates, but instead I thought I would just do a quick recap of the top updates over the past year. And of course, these are my favorite updates, maybe not necessarily your favorite updates. So I'd like to hear what you think. So start out, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who has joined me here live in the live chat. It's really made this much more fun for me. You guys are a great community. You have interesting discussions and questions, and I really appreciate you joining me so often over the past year. So, first of all, I want to say that one of the things that I really appreciate also is you watching my YouTube channel. This year, my channel reached 1 million views and 5,000 subscribers. I know that is not huge in the greater scheme of things, but to me it's huge. So thank you very much. I also wanted to mention that one of the big changes that I made this year, actually right about this time in 2022, is I migrated my newsletter from Review to Beehive. And I mention this because one of the big themes for this year was people trying to find a home for their writing. And of course, Review shut down because Twitter went through a lot of changes this year, and Twitter, it doesn't even technically exist anymore. It's X. The newsletter platform Review was one of the first things that they shut down, which is why I migrated to Beehive. A lot of other people are on Substack. That's probably the most popular newsletter platform. But as it's been discussed, especially over the past few months, it has sort of a Nazi problem where they are not only allowing people with extremist views on the platform, but actually promoting those people, which is not great. Again, I want to give a shout out. Happy New Year to Craig, Diego, and Jolyn. I really appreciate you joining me today on your holiday. Happy New Year to all of you. And the other milestone I wanted to mention is that my blog, Peggy K's Creator News, which is the name it goes by now, is 10 years old. I can't even believe I've been doing it for 10 years. It's gone through a lot of changes. I started out doing tutorials on integration of Google Plus and YouTube. Obviously, I had to change over time. So now I'm really focused on creator news and tips, and I changed the name to reflect that. So those are my big milestones of the year. Thank you for being part of the journey. So just to get started, the big news in 2023 was generative AI. ChatGPT launched in, I think, November 2022, not that long before the end of the year. It was a smash hit. People love the chatbot. They love creating images from just writing prompts. And so all of the big companies, or most of the big companies, because I don't see Apple actually jumping on this bandwagon, but most of the big companies have been working double time to incorporate generative AI into their various products. Google, of course, is no exception. And one of the things I wanted to start with, though, is that these AI bots or tools, they're large language models. They are not actually smart. So they need a huge amount of information, text and images to be trained on. And then they kind of are more similar to fancy kind of autocomplete. So they can figure out what the most likely response is to various prompts. If you have your own website or blog or otherwise, you can block the biggest AI training box. OpenAI's GPT bot can be blocked in the robots text of your site, and Google Bard and Vertex AI can be blocked again in robots text. They have a special user agent, Google Extended, that you can add there to control that. Microsoft Bing chat makes you change the no cache and let me see, makes you change the no cache and no archive tags. So if you have your own site and you don't want your content to be used to train the next generation of these AIs, you can configure that for your site. This, of course, does not change that these bots are already trained. So it may be too late. But it's something to consider if you don't want them to do this. Diego says, Apple actually said in the past they're going to add AI responses to Siri. I haven't noticed any changes. I think that's a good point. That may be something that is still in development. I think, though, also, is it something that people really want? I know people like to play with chatbots a lot, but sometimes it can be a little disturbing. Sometimes it can be wrong. And I think they're probably already using machine learning for a lot of the responses. It's just not as smart as some of these other AI platforms out there. We'll see what Apple does in 2024. They may feel like they have to jump on the bandwagon. So, talking about Google's AI tools, and they stuck AI in everything. I mean, there's Google Bard. You can chat with Google Bard, and Bard has some new options where you can install extensions into Bard that lets it access YouTube and understand YouTube videos to actually use those in its responses. You can also enable an extension for Google Workspace that lets Bard access your Docs and your Gmail, for example. So you can ask questions about that. That actually ties into what Google is doing with Duet AI. That's what enterprise Google Workspace customers pay for. Workspace Labs is the free version you can sign up to test if you have a free Google account. And this allows the AI to access your Docs, Drive, Slides, Sheets, Gmail, and separately Google Meet. I'll mention Google Meet separately because it's actually not integrated directly with those other things. But you can use it for generating drafts and writing prompts, even rewriting what you wrote, maybe in a slightly different style, making summaries, that kind of thing. Google Meet does have a couple of generative AI options. You can create images to use as a background. You can also enable some processing for improved lighting and sound and that sort of thing. The other big change, of course, is for Google Search. Google is a search company, and they have what they call the Search Generative Experience. You can sign up for this trial. The idea is you do a search, and then it gives you an AI-generated summary kind of mashed together from multiple sources. I've been trying it, and I think it's really annoying, mostly because it isn't smart. So a lot of times there's really only one correct web page with the information I want, but the system is set up to always combine information from multiple pages, and sometimes that makes it wrong, or it's more focused on shopping than information. Or sometimes I just want the link to the website. I don't want a summary of what's on the website. I want to visit the website itself. So I'm not that keen on Google's Search Generative Experience, and who knows if they will actually implement this rather than leaving it in beta as experimental. There's, of course, AI tools in other products as well. YouTube announced a bunch. They have a music creation tool that's being tested by a few channels right now. They announced a bunch of other options that will be available in the coming year, like writing up an outline and suggestions for creating content, or if you're in Shorts, generating backgrounds or even animations. Google Photos has some AI editing tools. Some of these are only available on the Pixel, but you can do things like take an object in a photo and move it around. So that's kind of cool, or creepy, if depending on your point of view. And then, of course, Google Ads, which is Google's source of income, has options for advertisers to generate backgrounds for their products and use other generative AI tools. Jolene says, I actually like the generative AI to answer some questions, especially when doing a quick search to answer a computer club member's question. That's a great use for it when you're looking for a specific piece of information. It can actually be faster than trying to find it on a website yourself, as long as it gives you the correct information. And just a quick mention that, of course, it's not just Google. Microsoft has Bing Chat and Copilot. They also launched Microsoft Designer. I think it was an older piece of software, but it wasn't really that prominent. But they have this Designer because it's integrated with the image generation options. One of the things that's interesting about Microsoft is that it's using ChatGPT-4 for Bing Chat. If you went to OpenAI directly, you would actually have to pay to use ChatGPT-4, but you can use it for free if you use Bing Chat. Microsoft owns something like 49% of OpenAI. So it's not just that they're using ChatGPT, they're part owners in the company. So it will be interesting to see how that progresses as well. And the other big AI that I think is really cool is Adobe Firefly. This is image generation. It's, of course, based on Adobe's image library. They say it was ethically sourced. The training images, they are images that were either public domain or they were opted in through Adobe's image library. So that's better than some of the other image generation software that just basically scraped everything from across the internet. And they also have a free design tool called Adobe Express. It's pretty full-featured. If you look at it, it not only will let you create images with text, like for social media, it also lets you do some basic video editing. So if you want to have a web-based video editor just for short videos especially, give Adobe Express a try. So Jolene says, I have a link to both Microsoft Designer and Adobe Firefly in my bookmarks bar and use them quite a bit. Yeah, they're actually both really full-featured platforms, which is pretty cool that they're free and web-based. You don't have to install anything. What's interesting is that their competition is Canva. Now, Canva has been around for a long time, really top of the line editing tools, but a lot of their new AI features that they launched this year require a paid account. So the question is whether Adobe Express, Microsoft Designer, with their completely free tools, are they going to take some of the business away from Canva, which requires a payment? Now, Canva has a lot more editing tools in their suite, so maybe it's not an issue. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. And I'll say that I usually use Canva. Part of that is kind of inertia. I've been using Canva, so I use Canva. It also has some nice tools for making presentations and things like that. So there's a lot of options out there, mostly for free now, which is really awesome. So AI really touches on every product update, but I wanted to talk specifically about a few really cool YouTube updates. The first one I wanted to talk about is the expansion of, whoops. First one I talk about is expanded monetization. There's a new fan funding tier that is really designed, I think it's mostly helpful for people who make shorts, but it's designed to let creators have access to monetization earlier in their creative journey. So instead of 1,000 subscribers, you only need 500 subscribers. And then you either need 3,000 hours of public watch time in the past year rather than 4,000, or 3 million short views rather than 10 million short views. And this gives you access to things like memberships, super thanks, super chat, shopping tools, all these monetization things, except for ads. You do not have ad revenue sharing until you meet the higher requirements. So this is like a first step. If you qualify for this, you can get started. You can start offering memberships and so forth. And then when your channel reaches the eligibility requirements for full monetization, you can start getting ad sharing revenue. And among those things is ad revenue sharing for shorts. This was not available before this year. Previously, if you were doing really well in shorts and you had eligible content, you might be eligible for a special bonus at the end of the month. It was really kind of confusing. But now there's ad revenue sharing. If you talk to people, you have to get a lot of shorts views to earn much from shorts. I have shorts on my channel, and I think I earn like 25 cents or something really crazy in the past month. The other thing is new YouTube shopping features. They have product drops. So if you are launching your own product, you can go live. You can have like a placeholder and have the product magically appear on the screen when it's available. The other thing that the other changes that YouTube partners should be aware of are that overlay ads were retired. You may not have even noticed if you're a viewer. These ads were only available on desktop. They were sort of in a strip along the bottom of the screen. And they simplified the controls for pre-roll and post-roll ads. Now you either turn those on or turn those off, and YouTube shows what it thinks is best before you could control whether you had one or the other and whether they were skippable or non-skippable. The other change for more live streamers is that you can now gift memberships. So if you have a membership set up for your channel, you as the creator can now offer 2 batches of 5 memberships. So that's 10 memberships for free a month. And these are 1-month memberships. It's like a trial membership, sort of. So that's really cool and hopefully allows a lot of people to help build their channel's membership business. The other cool thing I wanted to talk about was the channel redesign. Now, this is most noticeable on desktop, and I just need to find the correct tab. So this is my channel, and this is what it looks like if you're not signed in. The big changes that they made is they simplified the tabs so that if you, for example, don't have shorts, there won't be a shorts tab on your channel. And they also removed the links that were on the channel header. Those were always only available on desktop. Instead, you can add links to your channel, and now there is a little links option. It shows the first one and it shows more. That pops up the About tab. There's no longer a separate About tab. Instead, you can click the short description or the links, and it will pop up with that information, including your channel description and the links and the channel details. You can actually make that a little bit bigger. You can see all of the channel details are now in this pop-up rather than in a separate tab. And this is probably a good thing. It does simplify things. It may even make it more likely people will see those links because they don't have to go to a separate tab. This also makes the layout more similar between mobile and desktop. So you see the same sort of thing. The other small change I wanted to mention is that you can now add your pronouns. I was fiddling with mine. It usually says she, her, but now it just says her because I changed my customization settings when I was fiddling with this last night. But I think it's not unreasonable to put your pronouns on your channel so everyone knows what they are. I think it's good to normalize sharing that information. Then lastly, something that is not available. I'm looking at this channel, my channel incognito. So this is not actually available incognito. Let me quickly change to a different channel, not incognito. The other big change to channels is that there is now a For You shelf. You can see my For You shelf here on Creator Insider. These are videos that YouTube is recommending to me personally. These are personalized recommendations based on my viewing and my interests. And it can include videos, it can include shorts, it can include live streams. It's what YouTube thinks I'd be interested in. It's usually pretty good on channels that I've looked at. And it's really an opportunity for people who visit your channel to be recommended some content. If you don't want to have the For You shelf on your channel, or you want to only limit it to recent videos, you can change those settings in YouTube Studio. So those are some of the big changes. The last big change I wanted to mention was that there is a change to the way links work on Shorts. YouTube made it so that links in the description and comments on Shorts are no longer clickable. This was apparently to reduce issues with spam and scams. That's not great for people who are using their Shorts to promote things. But what you can now do is add a related video. That lets you link to any other video on your channel. And I've seen some people do this really well. There was someone whose short I was watching, and I thought it was really interesting. They linked to another short. They basically chained their shorts. So instead of going to the shorts feed, I just went to this person's shorts, and it was actually pretty great. So those are my top updates for YouTube. Oh, see, this is why I have slides, because I'm very forgetful. The other updates I wanted to mention quickly, there's a new YouTube Create app for mobile devices. This is great for editing videos. It's actually pretty full-featured for a mobile video editor. So if you want to create videos on your phone or tablet, or even on your Chromebook, if you can install Android apps, that's actually a pretty neat tool. And quiz posts. Quiz posts on the community tab were launched in, I think, July. I've been adding quizzes since then. You want to take the quizzes I posted, check out the community tab on my channel. I think it's a lot of fun, and I like quizzes, so there you go. So 2023, if you use Blogger as a blogging platform, there were some sort of quiet changes. And I know Blogger is not sexy or exciting, but it works for me. And they are keeping things up to date. And let me quickly find the correct tab. One of the first changes was an update to the way images are stored on Blogger. This is not particularly exciting. This was a change on the back end. Blogger switched domains for serving new images. Now they actually updated the links to all the images in old Blogger posts. So this is a good thing. This change makes it more stable, the images, but like all good things, it can go wrong. And I will just mention that if there's a problem on your Blogger blog, on the older posts, images are broken, it may be due to this change. And Blogger does mention it doesn't impact images hosted on third-party sites or old photos one images, that would be in the URL to the image. But if you have had a problem with images on your blog, you will see it in your blog's settings. Go to Manage Blog, manage unsupported image URLs to see if that's a problem. If you don't see that menu option, you don't have any unsupported URLs. This was just one of several different updates related to images on Blogger. They also introduced the option to turn on lazy loading of images on your blog. This saves bandwidth where people open a web page and the images for the entire page don't actually load immediately. Instead, they just load as you scroll through the page. This is good to save bandwidth if you have a lot of images in your posts. You can also now select the option for Blogger to convert your images to WebP. This is a smaller image format. I think it was invented by Google. Again, it makes your pages load more quickly. One of the reasons not to use WebP, at one time, a lot of browsers didn't actually support that image format. But now I think as long as people have a relatively recently updated browser, that should be supported. And then the last thing I wanted to mention with the Blogger updates is that legacy blogs are going to be deleted. Now, legacy blogs are Blogger blogs that have not been signed into since before 2007. That's like more than 15 years ago. These blogs are not connected to a Google account. So starting in 2007, if you signed into Blogger, you had to migrate your blog to a Google account. So these very, very old blogs that nobody signed into since 2007, Blogger is no longer going to support. Blogger did send out an email in November about this. It said, you've got a blog associated with this email. You need to sign in if you want to keep it. You can do that by following the directions in the link. I also have a tutorial on my site. If you can't figure out how to sign in, though, it may be lost. They do have a password recovery assistance if you follow the instructions. So usually if you go to Blogger's password assistance, it's now Google account recovery, but specifically for this process, they do have password recovery assistance for these legacy accounts. In the email that was sent out, I think people were given a 2-month deadline to do this. It's kind of sad. These old blogs will be lost, but if no one has signed in for 15 years and they're not in the current account format, it's not unreasonable that this change is going to be made. And actually, Google originally announced this was going to be required in, I think, 2012. So people have gotten a 11-year extension on doing this. So those are the big changes for Blogger, and this is good because it means they don't actually have to maintain these old blogs on the old platform that nobody can sign into. So it's a good thing going forward. I'm taking longer, and people should just tell me if they're not interested in this. The last thing I wanted to talk about quickly were some updates for AdSense. If you have AdSense ads on your own website, you should definitely be aware that you need to set up the consent system for visitors to your site from Europe, the EU, and UK. This is required by January 16th. As long as you sign into Blogger and tell AdSense that you want this to be set up, if you don't finish setting it up, they will do it for you with their own consent management platform. But you can use a third-party platform, and you can change it over time. But this is required by mid-January. if you want to show ads to people visiting your website from Europe. And this is for compliance with European regulations, of course. So that's something to check if you monetize your website. There were several changes to the AdSense account interface. They updated the ad review center. This allows you to review the ads that appeared on your website. You can do that and actually block certain advertisers if you don't want those ads to appear. So it lets you manage this, which ads are showing on your website. There's an updated, improved auto ads manager that makes it a little bit easier to manage which types of auto ads show on your site. Um, this is because they keep having new ad formats. It was getting really complicated. And there's a redesigned sites page where you can manage all your sites that are monetizing with AdSense. It shows whether the ads text file is up to date for those sites or if that needs to be fixed, and so forth. So those were some sort of nice changes. And then there were a few ad type changes. They launched related search for auto ads. This was very similar to the old links ads format where the auto ads insert an ad unit that has links and people click it, it shows search results, and then those search results are monetized. If you use vignette ads, there are now frequency controls. Vignette ads are the ads that pop up when you leave a web page or go between pages on a website. These are sort of in-your-face interstitial ads. So it can be good to set the frequency to less frequent if you think that the visitors to your site would be annoyed by seeing these. And I have them turned off from my site. But you can set that in your AdSense account, auto ads settings. The last thing that they announced was that there is deprecation of personalized AdSense for search ads. AdSense for search, that you put a search box on your website and then people do a search, it searches your site, and then it's monetized with ads. If this is embedded on your site, it's no longer going to be served from google.com. And that may sound like it's no big deal. The difference is that if it's not served from google.com, it's served from a different domain, it can't access the Google cookies set in a person's browser. So this is a privacy issue. And what that means is that AdSense for search will no longer show personalized ads, right? Because it's not actually accessing the cookie that has that information that they use for personalization. And this is a bigger change overall towards reducing Google's use of cookies to track you. And this is another trend from 2023 going into 2024. Chrome is going to start blocking third-party cookies by default. And Safari already does this. Firefox already does this. So Chrome is a little late to the party, but because Chrome is so popular, this is going to be a significant change. And if you have your own website and you have anything embedded on your site that requires third-party cookies, there's some widgets, for example, that show personalized information based on the account the person signed into that might require those cookies. Those may no longer work. So hopefully widget makers and site makers are really pushing to make changes so that third-party cookies are no longer required, because really the trend is to block them. This is for privacy reasons. And just a couple other bits of food for thought. if you have your own website, the first thing is, have you updated to Google Analytics 4? That was another big change in the past year. The old Universal Analytics went away. It was replaced by Google Analytics 4, which is more complicated, and I still haven't figured out quite how to use. But that is the platform now. I think Google migrated Google Analytics properties automatically, but they require some configuring to actually have good data. If you have a Blogger blog, you should make sure that you're using the correct code in your Blogger settings to link to the associated Google Analytics 4 property. The other thing I've been thinking about a lot is federation and just how the social media landscape is kind of embracing this idea of federation. Meta's Threads is getting ActivityPub. WordPress lets you install a plugin with ActivityPub, Flipboard, ActivityPub, and all of these allow you to federate with each other ultimately once they're fully implemented. So the idea is that I'm on Mastodon and I follow your WordPress that has ActivityPub. I can comment on it, and then the comment goes directly to the blog post. And instead of having these separate platforms where you're sharing a link, again, you're interacting with each other directly. At least that's the theory. It hasn't really quite happened yet, but I think with Meta's Threads pushing for ActivityPub to work, again, and they're probably doing it for self-serving reasons like regulatory reasons, but this gives a lot of opportunity to maybe step back from social media. You can still interact with other social media platforms, but you don't necessarily need an account on every one, which is what I have right now. So I'm looking forward to a federated future. I hope that actually is a good trend. And if you have your own website or blog, that's something to think about. Do you want to install this WordPress plugin to start federation? Is that something you want to think about? So that's what I am looking forward to for 2024. We're going to have more AI. We're going to have more federation. Twitter, I think, is just fewer and fewer people there, I think. And that's an ongoing trend. And there will probably be surprises. There's going to be some cool updates on YouTube. They're going to roll out A/B testing of thumbnails more widely. I know that's something a lot of creators are excited about. I'm looking forward to giving that a try because my thumbnails are objectively terrible. And I think that we're also going to see Google search trying to clean things up more because they have this problem where there's this sort of crappy AI generated content, and they have to figure out how to separate the low quality, non-authoritative, non-trustworthy content from the high quality content. So we'll see more of that. There have been several steps along the way this year. They also, I'll mention, they changed the way they have results in the video search. So if you do a video search on Google, they only want to show pages where the video is the main part of the content. That would be like pages on Vimeo, pages on YouTube, pages on Twitch, that sort of thing. My site used to appear in the video search results because I have embedded videos, but it's not the primary content on those web pages, so I don't get that traffic anymore, which is sad. But I think it's part of a bigger trend where Google is trying to clean up the search results. We'll see who wins, the spammers or Google, or if it's an ongoing fight. So I think there's exciting things ahead for 2024. Have a fantastic New Year's tonight. I hope you can share it with the folks you care about. Happy New Year. And I will see you again in 2024. Thanks for joining me today. Whoops. And of course, I need to figure out how to